Von Miller is actively recruiting Odell Beckham Jr. to the Buffalo Bills, and we're going to get into if this is realistic and what this means for the rest of the NFL if this ends up happening. But welcome to the channel. If you are new here, consider subscribing and dropping a like on the video if you do enjoy it. We're on the road to 4,000 subscribers and we're around 400 away, so if you are new to the channel, be sure to hit that button. But with all that being said, let's hop into the video about Odell Beckham Jr. and the Buffalo Bills. It has been a pretty quiet offseason for Odell Beckham Jr. as he recovers from his second ACL tear. His first one came back in 2020 when he played for the Cleveland Browns. When Baker Mayfield threw an interception, Odell went to chase the defender, ended up tearing up his knee, and he was out for the rest of the season and only played in 7 games that season. However, he battled back and was ready pretty early on in the 2021 NFL season. He did miss a couple games to start off the year, but was relatively ready for the Browns early in the season, but things were really not working out. Dating back to even the previous season before he tore his ACL, he was not putting up a ton of good numbers for the Browns, and that carried over to 2021. It seemed like him and Baker were not on the same page at all when they were playing. They had a lack of chemistry. At one point, Odell's dad even posted a video on social media basically highlighting every single time where Baker missed his son wide open, and that gained a lot of social media attention, and it started to build a tension between Odell and Baker, and the Browns organization was put in a pretty tough spot. It was dividing the locker room, players deciding who they were with, Odell or Baker. So the Browns decided to cut Odell, but he did not stay on the market for very long. That is when the Rams came in and gave him a 1-year deal with $4.25 million. He received a $500,000 signing bonus and a $750,000 salary and up to $3 million in long-term based incentives. And what felt like for the first time in a long time, Odell was going to be playing in a very good offense with a very good quarterback in Matthew Stafford. We date back to early in Odell's career. You could argue Eli Manning had a couple good years before he ended up retiring, but Odell really hadn't played with a top 10 quarterback throughout his entire career up until last season, and he really made the most out of the opportunity. Odell played in 8 games for the Rams and recorded 27 catches for 305 yards and 5 touchdowns, and in the postseason he continued his high production with 21 catches for 288 yards and 2 touchdowns in 4 games. There was a lot of chatter that maybe Odell was washed as he had 0 touchdowns for the Browns to start the year, but imagine that. He goes to an offense that utilizes him correctly and with a good quarterback, and he instantly hit the ground running. And I don't even think it's a wild thing to say that he was on pace to win Super Bowl MVP before he got hurt in the Super Bowl. He had 2 catches for 52 yards and a touchdown, opening up the Super Bowl with a touchdown reception, and early in the second quarter he got hurt and we never got to see him the remainder of the game. But just imagine if he continued that production throughout the entirety, he would have had a real chance to compete with Cooper Kupp for Super Bowl MVP, but it didn't happen, and Odell was forced once again to start recovering for his ACL injury. And an interesting report from Ian Rappaport about this new injury was it was not the worst thing in the world, and his second ACL injury might have actually extended his NFL career. And I know that sounds crazy, but listen to what Ian Rappaport had to say about his injury. The team doctor corrected a previous surgery from a couple years ago. The knee was a concern because it was not 100% healthy, and I don't believe they would have given him a long-term deal just based on the knee because it was troubling. Now what he's relating to there is Odell's first ACL injury with the Browns. For some reason it did not go well, and his knee was not in a good place all throughout last season. So Rappaport went on to say Beckham tearing his ACL again in the Super Bowl was in a weird way a little bit of a relief from everyone because his knee was able to get fixed correctly. This past surgery went really well. He probably is going to have extended his career just because of this recent surgery. Not practicing a lot, having to sit out key snaps in games because of pain in his knee, but now that he's had the second surgery, things should be a lot better for him long term. He did get the surgery in February, so he is going to miss at least half the season next year, but as far as him being able to play multiple seasons, I think he definitely has a better chance to do that now. He's ready to play. We appreciate him being a part of the Rams. However, this offseason they did sign Allen Robinson to a 3-year, $45 million deal with $30 million guaranteed. So if Odell is brought back by the Rams, he's not going to have a huge role in the offense like he did last year as the number 2 option behind Cooper Kupp. And the Rams may not be the only team that has some interest in Odell Beckham. Von Miller made a post on his Instagram saying, "You know I'm lit," and Odell responded to the post saying, "You've been lit. Von Miller, what's the locker next to you look like?" And Von Miller responded saying, "Been open since I got here. Waiting on you, brother." And later that same day, Von Miller posted a Photoshop picture of Odell Beckham Jr. in a Buffalo Bills jersey saying, "Let's chase this ring again." The Rams traded for Von Miller from the Broncos last year, giving them a 2nd and 3rd round pick in the 2022 NFL draft. And it seems like Odell and Von Miller built a solid relationship last season, but the Rams did not have the funds to bring back Von Miller, and ended up signing with the Bills on a 6-year, $120 million deal, including an average of $17.5 million a year for his first 4 seasons and $51 million in guaranteed money. The Bills were in desperate need of a pass rusher, and they signed one of the premier rushers we have in the league. I don't believe Von Miller is the same player as 4 to 5 years ago. For the Rams last year, he was used as a situational pass rusher. Key downs and moments he was used by the Rams, and he did an effective job for them, especially in the postseason. And I think that's exactly what the Bills are going to use him for. Use him to coach up some of the young guys they have on the line, and also on 3rd down late in the 4th quarter when they need to close out a game. That's where Von Miller's going to come in the game, and I think he's going to be an effective player for them at least this year and the next. But Odell potentially joining the Bills is a very interesting scenario. The Bills obviously already have a top receiver in Stephon Diggs, so Odell would not be going there to be the number 1 option, which perfectly makes sense. However, I do think the wide receiver 2 spot has a chance for Odell to step in and take. Currently, the Bills wide receiver 2 is Gabriel Davis, and he's entering his 3rd year in the NFL, and he's only 23 years old, a very young player, and he's had a good start to his career. He started 11 games as a rookie and had 35 catches for 600 yards and 7 touchdowns, and then last year he only started in 4 games, had 35 catches for 549 yards and 6 touchdowns. But his biggest moment of the entire season was in the playoff game against the Kansas City Chiefs, when he had 201 yards and 8 catches for 4 touchdowns, setting an NFL record for most touchdowns in a playoff game. And there's a lot of hope that he'll continue on that path and be a breakout player for the Bills this year, but that is a complete unknown at this point. We do not know exactly how well Gabriel Davis is going to perform this year. I think he's got potential to evolve in that role, but time will tell if he's ready to make that jump. The Bills also signed Jamison Crowder on a 1-year deal this offseason to be their slot wide receiver with Isaiah McKenzie. So as far as slot wide receivers go, I think they have a good pair that they can use in that position. But if Gabriel Davis does not seem to be making that jump through the first few weeks of the season, but I personally think the Bills are fine at the wide receiver position. I think they got enough depth, and I think Josh Allen will make it work. I think it's going to be later in the season once Odell is getting very close to being able to play. I mean, as I mentioned earlier in the video, he's likely going to miss at least half the season. ESPN reported that he isn't expected to be a full go until October and even possibly November. So if the Bills do acquire him, it will most likely be to make their team even more lethal as they enter the playoffs. But thank you guys so much for watching the video. If you guys are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe and drop a like on the video if you guys did enjoy it. Let me know what you think of the Buffalo Bills and Odell Beckham Jr. and if you think he'd be a good fit there or he would be a better fit somewhere else. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.